we have CEO and author with CH Digital, Chris Hood.
Hello, hello. Man, I love Utah. I love the flowers. I love the trees. I love the leaves. Speaking of leaves, the other day we were talking, a group of us during the reception, about a new term I just learned, leaf peepers. Yeah, I just learned it. How many people knew what leaf peepers was? Okay, well, I just learned it as well as the group of people we were talking to. It's interesting. Words and phrases tend to be, things that we dwell on a lot lately. Artificial intelligence being one of those words. And I'm kind of curious, I'll share a little bit about myself, but how many people really love AI? Half, okay. Maybe the other side will be a little bit more rambunctious. How many people really hate AI? No one? Am I the only one? Yes. Unbelievable. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Today we are going to have a different perspective of AI. I promise you this. Some of you are going to love what I say. Some of you are not going to. And that's intentional. I also want to give you a brief moment to kind of close your eyes, meditate, and answer this question. If you could completely reinvent customer success, what would that look like? Because quite honestly, it needs to be reinvented. And we're going to get into a little bit of that. So, a little bit about myself. Again, I'm Chris Hood, 35 years of experience in customer experience, customer success. 25 years of that has been in AI. I've previously led a CS team at Google, where for 6 years we built strategy and innovation, specifically in a very unique way. I moved customer success to pre-sales. I removed things like QPRs. I switched onboarding to at the time of sale, did a lot of really unique things and was very successful with it. 2 times best-selling author, first book, Customer Transformation. That's a framework for customer-centric organizations. Second book is Infallible, which is how the AI ideology has reshaped consumer behavior. Here is my brief history of AI. Started all the way back in 1999. Seems we've lost a letter in there, Digireel. It was an algorithm for on-screen advertising at movie theaters. The premise of what you see in front of movie theaters was built off of the Digireel framework. Ruckus was a music platform that we invented. It was the first streaming cloud-based music platform that was eventually acquired by Sony Music. At Fox, I developed a security algorithm for protecting voting systems for American Idol. And then, of course, I've been teaching since 2014 artificial intelligence courses, as well as business and customer-centric programs. I started working at Google, and so on. Most recently, I wrote my books I show you in there. I also, in 2025 now, I've developed a couple of frameworks. One of them is QAGI, which is a model to determine when we actually reach artificial general intelligence, an autonomy validation matrix, and Agentic API, which is an API integration platform for agentic-based systems. So a lot of work, and I bring all of that to you today. I'm sure there's going to be questions. I'm going to leave some time as much as possible for those questions, and we're going to cruise through this as much as possible. So the first question is, do you think your customers care about AI? How many think so? Okay. How about this question? Do you care about AI? And I'm not asking about it from your business perspective. Put yourself into a consumer's shoe. You go to the grocery store and whatnot. Do you care about AI as a consumer? Okay, a few people. Here's some reality for you. Right now, about 50% of Americans feel concerned about AI. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but this is up from 37% in 2021. 70% of customers will actually abandon, and we've seen those researches before. One bad experience and your customers will leave you, right? That typical one. There's been new research out now that shows that if they have a bad artificial intelligence experience, after one time, they will also leave your company, 70%. What's more interesting is that 99% of consumers, when asked between a non-AI product, any type of product, and a regular product, 99% of them will choose the non-AI product. This was extensive research that was done at the beginning of the year. I do have all of these references and stuff that I'll hand out. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to go back real quick. Let's see, can we go back? Back? Yes? Back. Forward. Technology. Oh man, I just clicked it again. Okay, if you scan that, that's actually my LinkedIn. I do have a new ebook that I'm going to be sharing with everybody in here. Just find me on LinkedIn, message me, say CS100. It's a 10-step strategy for AI-powered customer success, 50-page roughly. It will give you pretty much everything that I'm talking about today and more. So if you want that strategy guide, go ahead and do that. Fast forward. So 99% don't care about if it's AI. They actually prefer it to be non-AI powered. And then 77%, which is interesting enough, are using AI on a daily basis without even knowing it. We've been using AI for most part for 10 plus years, whether or not you realize it or not. AI has been around for a long time. There's a trust issue also with AI. So, 81% think AI companies will use their personal information for bad things. 71% worry about privacy. And we have talked about that the privacy alone is completely changing because of AI. And 58% don't trust the information that AI provides. And there's a lot of reasons for that. AI has flaws. It's inherent. They can't be changed. Another interesting report came out recently, and it's in how we as customers like to engage with companies. And you can see the pink on the left is human, and the blue is AI. And what we see is that when it's all said and done, people want to talk to somebody and get an answer. This is why we're seeing differentiations in the marketplace, like Discover, that says, yes, you can really talk to a real human being. And they have actually seen an increase in their market value solely because of being able to talk to a real human. People are leaving banks and moving over to Discover only for that reason. Now, we do see that when it comes to chat, that is improving, and 43% say they would love to actually talk with AI if they know that they can get to the right answer, and if they can't, when is that handoff? But how does all of this relate to customer success? So I want to also start with some framing. We talked about words before, and I have a very interesting perspective on this philosophy. I know somebody earlier was asking B2B companies, whether you're B2C, B2B. In all of those cases, there's still an end consumer somewhere in the mix. So when I talk about a customer, I am always going to be talking about the end user of a product. What we find is that if you can understand the consumer, especially in a B2B environment, you are going to be more successful with your direct customer. And what's even more interesting is for customer-centric organizations, I change it. C to B to B. This is a subtle mind shift. And I know there's a lot of people talking out there about AI first, and what does that mean? My argument is if you are AI first, you are not customer first. No matter how you want to spin it. Well, no, AI first is just a design principle for how we're going to go to market and develop new technologies. Why isn't that customer first? I get the difference between AI native, we can argue, being an AI native company, but still you are trying to solve a customer problem. So why is the customer problem not at the center of the conversation? And we're going to give you some more examples of this here as we go. I have a 3-pillar exercise, framework to kind of discuss with you today, and it's signals, speed, and strategy. And I love the fact that I'm not the only one who has been on this stage talking about signals and strategy and speed. These are all very common themes. But these are the 3 we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to share a little bit about how I look at it and how this relates to customer success. There's a lot of opinions out there about AI. Here's one of them. Adding or improving data will help my AI output better insights. How many people think that's fact? How many people think that's a fallacy? How many people don't know? How many people don't care? Good. Okay. It's a little bit in between. It's a little bit between fact and fallacy. Here's a couple of do's and don'ts for you when thinking specifically about signals. The most common is that you want to start looking at the data that you have access to, the data that is inside your company. I have access to it. It's easy. The problem with this is that most of the data inside of your company is either also not accurate, also outdated, or a lagging indicator as to what's happening with your customer. A better way to look at signals is to think about external data and how that external data can be brought into and used to better understand your customers or their customers. So when we talk about external data, we might talk about something like the weather. And I'm going to give you an example of that. We might talk about market trends, shifts in industries, your customers' competitors and how they are responding to their competition, change in leadership at different types of organizations. A lot of these will actually drive insights to churn that have nothing to do with your product or service. Multidimensional, complex data. We as human beings are multidimensional. And so instead of focusing on one area, start thinking about other areas. In all of these, we have guardrails and execution. I'm not going to go through all of these because, like I said, I want to try to get to some questions from everybody. But things like QBRs, well, my argument is you shouldn't be doing QBRs anyways. They're pointless. They're backwards looking. Start thinking more forward. And so you've got to shift your mindset when you're thinking about these things. And then you start to position AI as this intelligence amplifier, as opposed to an intelligence validator of the stuff that you already know. Disneyland is one of my happy places. It's the reason why it's called the happiest place on earth, I guess. More so is the churros. This is a picture of like I think a monster churro that I had gotten and obviously took a great picture. And what was interesting is I was working with Disneyland and they said, we've got this unique problem. We've got a bunch of employees and depending on the time of day and resource allocation, we can't seem to figure out how to make sure that we have everything staffed that we need to have staffed. And so we started to look at how AI can help with this. And so we brought in AI, we started to look at things like the weather, we started looking at even on-call employees and the rate or how often an employee was calling out sick, and then be able to predict with fairly good accuracy when to call somebody in, because we know that these people are calling out, and how to stock all of the different roles at any given time throughout the day. It was a change from leveraging signals which were typically understand, like I need 5 people at this ride during this period of time because it seems to be popular, versus, hey, we know based on traffic patterns within the park how often to do this. I use Disneyland as one example, but there are plenty of examples. I was actually just working with a startup that's a medical provider, and what they're doing is they are looking at pregnant women and analyzing birthing rates so that they can establish presence of nurses in real time. So if one room has a problem, they can reallocate nurses faster. And if another room only needs 2 nurses, they can distribute that much more accurately. And this, again, is using non-typical data. Speed. Here's another one. AI will free up CSMs to spend more time with customers. Fact? False. Fallacy. Who? Anybody? Lots of fallacies over here. Good. Lots of people on this side don't really care at all. They have not raised their hands. I'm calling them out. Here's some more of your do's and don'ts. So I see this on LinkedIn a lot right now. Like, if I was to start as a director of CS today, these are the 3 prompts that I would use to get up to speed as fast as possible. And I'm thinking, you know what I would do? I'd pull out my phone and call the customer. I mean, a lot more accurate and a lot more personal. Like, there's a lot of things you do not need to use AI for. It's not going to speed up your time so you can spend more time with your customer. If you want to spend more time with your customer, go spend more time with your customer. Call them. It's faster and more accurate. But things like context and being able to understand that. What are they talking about? What are their needs? Those are some things that we can look at with AI. We can generate alerts, something that is a little bit more, again, predictive or more on demand as needed. Emails, communication, things that as CS people we should already be doing, that, by the way, we did 5 years before AI. I would say keep doing those things. That's customer-centric. AI, you have to look beyond that and find opportunities to integrate it in new ways. Again, some guardrails in execution for you so that you can understand kind of the balancing act for speed there. And as an example, we've got Domino's Pizza. Now, Domino's Pizza, somebody said, I don't really like Domino's Pizza. I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan, but I'll tell you what, the pizza that they serve directly out of their headquarters is incredible. Like, they got this test kitchen downstairs. You just place the order and it comes up to your office. That's beautiful. So they're using Vision AI. Do you realize that there are like 15 different types of artificial intelligences out there? Gen AI is one. Vision AI is basically the ability to leverage visual components to make better decisions. Domino's is putting cameras inside of their pizza ovens and during the assembly lines so they can see if you ordered a pepperoni pizza, is this in fact really a pepperoni pizza? And then being able to improve the overall process and quality of their product. Again, this isn't the only use case. We have, again, I'm working with another medical company right now who's putting cameras inside of surgery rooms and sort of hospitals to rate and track how the surgeon is doing to output some sort of report about everything they did right and wrong during the surgery. And this is all powered by AI, not generative vision. Different AI for different use cases. AI builds customer trust through smarter, unbiased responses. Yes? False. AI by default is biased. AI inside of your company is biased. AI outside of your company is biased. LLMs will always hallucinate. These are facts. You cannot get around them. There is no such thing as we are 100% non-hallucination type of product. If it is, it's not AI. It's called search. And even search results sometimes are biased. Again, I won't go through all of this, but here's your strategy components. Think about empathy. Think about how it can be auditable. Think about transparency. Our biggest problem with AI from a consumer perspective right now is trust. Trust is a currency, and the moment you lose trust is the moment you start to lose in AI. A lot of you are thinking about, well, how do we start with AI? How about if we start by doing some little pilot inside of our companies and we talk with all of our teams and we figure out what's the best way to use AI? I'll tell you what, why don't you start with your customers and ask them, how would you like us to use AI with you? And see what they have to say. That's a customer first approach. Ask your customers. There's a transparency component there. You're building trust and you're co-creating the AI experience that they want. Guardrails execution. I just leave it up so you can take a photo of it real quick because I'm not going to go through it, just so that we can get through. And then Experian is a great example of starting small. So I hate to break this to you, but Experian started their AI journey 5 years ago. And it's taken them 5 years before they've seen a positive return on their AI strategy. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that it's going to take you 5 years. It's just setting the expectation that sometimes this stuff doesn't take, it takes a little time. They created a center of excellence, and then within their center of excellence, they started to go around and train all of their employees worldwide. Mandatory training for AI implementation. And then they developed a chatbot, and then with that chatbot, they exposed it to only 5% of their total customer support calls. They got a little reading on that. They expanded it to 35%. And at 35% of their support calls, they found an 8% improvement to their NPS score. Start small, find small wins, and then expand. Let me give you a quick example. How many people think this is accurate? I've seen it a couple of times this week. I'll tell you what, any type of journey map, any type of bow tie, AI is obliterating this. It makes no sense anymore. You should not be doing this. And if we think about it, we've talked about how customer success is on the one side. I'll argue that right now, customer success should be across all of those. And with AI, you can be. And when I'm talking about how this is obliterating, what we're finding is things like this, that your education and onboarding can be pushed right up towards the selection process. I mean, you don't even necessarily have to have a sales process. I've sat in meetings where somebody has come and they've said, oh, I've done all the research about your company on ChatGPT and I already know everything. You know probably more than I know about your company. So these things are becoming multi-layered, non-linear experiences. Here's another example. Like I can dice and slice these in any number of ways and validate how these work. I once walked into a customer and I closed a $2 million deal just because as I'm walking in, on the screen was a thought leadership article that they read that I had written, and they had made their decision already from that. I didn't have to do anything else. I had already established credibility They had already done the research through AI, and they already knew what they wanted. That got cut off a little bit, but unfortunately, you can't see the metrics. But if you think about these, and we actually start to apply AI against all of these different stages and include a CSM in each one of those stages, a CSM plus AI in the right context, you will see massive improvements across every single stage of whatever you want to call that thing. That will be in my document, so if you download that, you can grab it. And then frameworks, there's a couple of frameworks. One of them I've talked a lot about, customer first, technology last, AI maybe. In most cases, you do not need AI to build what you need to build to solve the customer's problems. AI is available for you, you could use it, but this is the maybe framework. Here's another one, it's called the care framework. It's how do you care more about your customers, and how do you leverage AI in that process? Customer first, always assess relationships, expansion. And then the last one is basically a 5 things to do to stay ahead of AI. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All A words. Align, which is also aligning with your customer. That is in more detail in the ebook that's coming out. And this is probably the best place to start too. Like if you're trying to figure out where to start, and I know I've talked to a lot of people saying like, where do I start? This is probably also a very good place to start. Figure out your alignment, figure out where you're going to activate, and then figure out how you're going to amplify. Okay? And I probably went a little slower than I needed to, but I wanted to get questions. So any questions that anybody has? You're telling me there's no questions? Yes.
One of the things you mentioned was that QBRs are dead.
Yes.
Be doing them. Can you talk a little bit about what you see us doing instead to not only inform our customers, because oftentimes the decision maker is not the person who's using the product, so we've got to bring them into the conversation.
Yep.
But also to continue moving the relationship forward.
Yep, strategic advisory type of practice. So I implement basically strategic planning sessions, SPS. And in a strategic planning session, it's always forward-looking. It's what can we do for you tomorrow? What are you planning? What is moving within your organization? What are the next challenges that you have? Any of those types of forward-looking, like what does your next 6 months look like? What does your next 2 quarters look like? And if you position it purely as strategic planning for future looking, then you can get the decision makers in the room. Then you can start to look at how you're going to evolve with them. Everything has to be forward looking as opposed to quarterly business review. You're reviewing what has happened, which no one really cares about. Anyone else? No AI questions. Unbelievable. What if I said, and I got 14 seconds to lay one on you, what if I said that there's no such thing as autonomy in AI? Anybody disagree with that one? No, cool, great. No autonomy in AI. Okay, thanks everyone.